First off, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Have a great week. Enjoy some food, family, and some fishing this week. So, starting up here in Mustang, just off the San Antonio Bay shoreline. This area up in here, this is prime time for this time of year. All this area up in here, I've told you before that once we start getting into these cooler months, colder months, we've had cold fronts that have pushed in here. This last one that just came through really dropped our temperature. Our water temperatures now are hovering around the low 60s, high 50s, depending on which estuary that you are in. These areas up here, like Mustang Lake, the outer edge of the ICW, some other areas up in that way, you got to go locate mud, grass, clump shell. This is one of those lakes that really sets up well for that. You can get some protection from the north wind. You can get a little bit more protection if you got a westerly wind. All this in here sets up really well for that, but you have that structure that's in play down in that area. So this is the type of stuff moving forward that you really want to start locating and finding. If you already know about these types of areas that you fish, then that's great. Those are going to be areas that you're really going to want to target a lot, especially in the months that are coming. So up in here around the clump, all the mud, the little back lake mouths that are there, we're fishing those and fishing the deeper edges of that. The little guts that are in there, we've found some scattered trout that have been in there. No, nothing great. No really big trout. They've been all just right at slot size or maybe in the slot or a shade under. Redfish scattered up in here. Found a few flounder as well. Main baits that are working for us. The original size and the burner size in the down south. It's been several different flavors that have been very productive. White ice has been good. Purple rain's been good. Chicken of the sea has been good. A few of the twisted tea has been good. Same thing in the original size down south has been very good up in here. This lake up here at Mustang will get dirty with the amount of wind that blows in it, so you're going to want to throw something that's going to be a tad bit darker in that. Texas roach as well, something has been good in the burner size or the super, so it gives it just a little bit more. So we're transitioning into a new moon, so make sure that you take that in effect as far as your fishing time frames for the day of the majors and minors. Also in the knock and tail lure, the greenback heavy metal has been pretty good. Watermelon red has been really good, and the smoke and the honeydew have all been very productive at different points in times on trips and days. So just have a little bit of versatility in your wading box in there. Corky season is here. If you're a corky guy or gal and you like to throw those, then get them and tie them on and start working them. I'm a big fan of the original Paul Brown. It's super versatile bait, so that's already in the box and it's already come out a few times. Top water bait, it's been okay. Didn't have a lot of action on it, but the Double D has been good in the darker or the more solid colors there, whatever that you like in that particular brand. You can throw that. So again, work this area up here, work around that structure depending on what your wind is, get lined up on the shorelines. Again, the water temps are down in the low 60s, high 50s, so that's really sets up for this particular lake. Down here in Spalding, these areas down here, there's one of my favorite areas to fish. Again, got these super good fronts that are pushing in here, good cold fronts. Water temps are down. They're in the mid to low 60s, high 50s, again, depending on what estuary you're fishing in, where you're at, what type of structure's underneath you. All these little back lake mouths that dump out in Spalding, I've talked about them before, is they have nice guts in there. They have access to there. You got good mud and grass all scattered in and around these areas. You can get back in some of these back lakes. You can fish the mouths of some of these back lakes. You can get to the guts that run back in there. And if the wind hasn't pushed the water out of here, like this latest hard cold front that we've just had, it's going to push water from one side of the bays to the other. So some of these areas, you may be sitting at a really low tide or even maybe a negative tide, depending on how much water movement there is, depending on what the tides are doing. So make sure that you really pay attention to those. These types of areas with that type of structure begin to light up, really. Those fish are looking for somewhere to be comfortable. They want to be as warm as they possibly can. Other thing, too, that these fronts are going to continue to do is going to make them eat. They're going to be to try to putting on more fat to survive the wintertime, to stay warmer and survive all that. So that you'll see some of these fish you may have, whether it be trout mainly, as you may have caught some a week or two ago that, they don't look as fat or as big. And then here, after some of these fronts have passed through, especially this last one, it's going to kind of put them into that gorging time frame. So these fish will begin to look thicker and bigger than what they actually are, just because they've put on extra weight. So that's something you can look forward to. Prefrontal conditions have been really good, especially in and around the majors and minors. The fish have been really cooperating with us, and we have lit it up on some days, especially when these fronts are starting to push in here. If you can time that thing to where you're able to fish it safely before when these big fronts push in here, you can have some really good days, especially if you're in the right area, following the right things that you need to do as far as looking for your bait in your area, as far as your mud, your grass, majors and minors into those areas. These areas here, again, corkies, we've been throwing corkies, whether it's the floater, the sinker, fat boy, have been good. Double D has been good. Now, again, I like the Paul Brown original. That's my favorite one to throw a lot. So it's a very versatile bait. The down south, Marker 54 jerk shrimp underneath a popping cork on some of these really windy, nasty days can be very effective for you. You can either, again, underneath the popping cork, or you can free line it. Doesn't matter. But throwing that up against that grass line, as we've had really lots of good success with finding some redfish tucked up in some of these grass line edges. So something to consider if you're not throwing your plastics or top water or whatever. Down souths again, and knock and tail lures have all been in the same flavors that I mentioned in the last video. It's the same scenario. We're just pushing these in different areas and they're patterning. So it's been working really well. So you can put those into your wade box. Make sure that you bundle up pretty good, because again, our water temps are really chilly. Air temps are starting to get chilly, so make sure that you got all the right gear that you need to do these wade trips like that. And then pay attention to the weather, because these fronts can sneak up on you if you're not careful, not paying attention. You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation, because safety is a big deal. So again, incorporate your majors and minors into your day. And some of these fish you may have to grind on, but then others, if you get the situation right with the pre-front, you can have some really great days. Swan Lake, especially when these fronts that have pushed into here, these areas back here like this with the Swan Lake area, on the edge out there at Port Bay, these are areas that really start to light up. The colder weather, colder water. These fish are looking to get over somewhere where it's nice and comfortable for them. They want to get over that mud. They want to be over that clump shell, grass beds, all these types of areas that you really want to target during this time frame of the year. Get up here behind these little islands here that separate Copano Bay and the back of Swan Lake. There's some really great mud that's on the back side of these. Now, that said, some of that mud is really sticky and really deep, so make sure that you pay attention to where you're at and what you got. Especially you want to probably fish with a buddy or two, just in case you get to a point where you can't get yourself out of it. But these are the types of areas that you want to target. Looking for those grass beds, looking for the potholes. We've been throwing our down souths into these. We've been throwing the knock and tails into these. Again, the Double D and the Paul Browns in any of the ones that you like. It doesn't matter if you like the Fat Boys, if you like the original, some of the other ones that are out there that Paul Brown puts out. Terrific baits. The soft dine, also a little bit deeper edges. So when this water temps, we're in the upper 50s, low 60s, you will probably want to target just a tad bit deeper water to see and just kind of probe that. Those fish are going to be off in that little deeper edge like that you get out here when you get out to Port Bay. And again, the other thing too that you have to pay attention to is, again, your tides and how much water's in some of these areas. So you'll work these, work the edges, work the drops, especially early. Your kind of rule of thumb for your wintertime fishing is fish deep early, fish shallow late. And that allows that shallow water to heat up and get just a little bit warmer for them and a little bit more comfortable for those fish to get out of that deeper edge. So, if you're fishing in that upper 50 degree water that's up in here, 56, 57, 58, get on those deeper edges there at Port Bay. Work that. Work the soft dine in there. Work the Fat Boys in there. Work the original, the Paul Brown original off those edges like that. one thing that happens is these fish, again, they're going to want to start eating, but they also want to conserve energy when it gets really cold like that. So what they'll do is they may not move very much, so they'll be looking for a meal that can last them throughout the day. So, and then carry them into the next day. So that's where those the Paul Brown Fat Boys and originals really come into play for you, or the Soft Dine or the XL, and work those deeper edges like that, and it'll give you opportunities. Suspended baits as well, like a jerk bait, something to that effect, works really well in these scenarios and in these time frames. So again, majors and minors, make sure that you take care of that deeper water early, looking for some type of bait movement. Again, we have a lot of migratory baits that are starting to run out of here if they haven't already. They're getting into the Gulf and going further south because that's where they want to be warm. So the main baits that are left in our system is going to be mullet. Scattered shrimp here or there, so that's why the Marker 54 jerk shrimp works really well. So if you have some other baits that are mimicking what a mullet will do or what it looks like, you can give yourself set yourself up for a lot of success for that. So anyway, wrap up, bundle up, because it's cold out there, and it's probably going to be the more of the norm than it is the exception. So prepare for that and enjoy your fishing week.